mean, C.J. Stroud showed nothing, but had, 2 drives, and they didn't go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Nah.
The one bit of overreaction. So the third, it was a 3rd and long, and it's kind of a weird coverage. I feel like the safety that he threw it to was on his way to go cover the check down, and then Stroud just kind of threw it right to him. And
he telegraphed it enough.
He telegraphed it, but also just in the sample size of 4 passes, kind of took a little bit in the pocket. That's all. The quick reaction is, things were a little bit slow in the pocket, including on that interception.
Yeah, so he didn't look great. Let's just do the first round rookies at quarterback for to start with.
I'm going in order that we saw them. So Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
He also had a bad interception.
Yeah, that was rough.
His was different.
But interestingly, I think each quarterback that showed something bad, the thing that they showed bad was a trait in their game. Like C.J. Stroud's problem on that play was a problem from his Ohio State tape generally, which is like drop back, identify your target, stare it down, wait for it to be open, hit it. Right. The problem is you can't really do that at the NFL level because defenses are too good and they can read you and they know where you're going with the ball and they'll get there when you give them that chance. So he did that. He also had a couple plays that didn't look great under pressure, but that's a common theme throughout a lot of quarterbacks in preseason. Richardson's play was, okay, you might have done however much work with your individual private coach of fixing your mechanics and throwing from, structure and making all that look pretty. But what happens when the play goes to hell a little bit and now you have to sort of do the Mahomes stuff and ad-lib and throw from weird angles? That's where the mechanics break down again because you just go back to muscle memory and instinct. And as much as you can drill the classic footwork and drop back mechanics, it's very difficult to drill the unique situation that makes you go, eh. And that's where he, just lost the accuracy and threw it instead to a defender.
So Richardson's interception was, it's an RPO. And, for listeners, an RPO is not just play action. That's a called running play where the first option is to hand it off. Second option is to pull it and throw it. And when you have an RPO, you pretty much have to hit the first read,
yes.
Right? And it's supposed to be open because what you're reading is one defender. And if he goes one way, you hand it off. And if he goes the other way, you throw it behind him. And with Richardson, he pulls it. He goes to throw it. Defender's in the way. So he's got a double clutch. And once you do that with an RPO, you almost don't get the double clutch. We've seen this with Patrick Mahomes a few times. He'll double clutch an RPO and then throw this ridiculous sidearm pass.
Right.
But there's a penalty on the play because the offensive line's run blocking and they're usually at the second level and there's an illegal man downfield if they call it properly. With Richardson, that's kind of what you got there. So as soon as the first read is away, I was tweeting out, you got to throw that thing away. And people are asking, well, what about intentional grounding? It's no, you got to bury it. You throw it at the feet of your receiver. And so for Richardson, he's got to, as you said, make that reaction on the fly, double clutch, throw it sidearm. He airmails it for an interception. So that was not a good start for Richardson. He did have the one downfield pass that people were going crazy for. That was a pretty nice throw.
Yeah.
So again, I think you got to see a little bit of the ups and downs of Anthony Richardson all in year one.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I will say, he only ran the ball twice. My quick overreaction on the negative side there is his athleticism as special as we think it is? Was he running away from guys enough? And I'm only going to say that because I think Justin Fields' first game, way back 2 years ago in the preseason, he came out of the boot and he just looked faster than everybody on the field. And I remember Trey Lance kind of did the same thing when we were reacting to their preseasons. I don't know, in 2 runs, I don't know if I saw that from Anthony Richardson yet. And he's a guy that I've said, hey, I think he could rush for 1,000 yards if the Colts choose.
Well,
so I don't know if I'm overreacting too much on the negative side there for Richardson.
You have to, I think for him, you have to factor in his athleticism is special when you roll it all up and create a composite that involves size, right? He is an absolute freaking monster, and running a 4.43 or whatever he ran at that size is insane, right? But it doesn't it still doesn't make you faster than a guy that runs 4.3.
Yeah.
It's only that being fast at that size is nuts. But Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, these guys are legitimate 4.3 speedsters, so they can outrun basically anybody on the field. Richardson can't. It's just that when he's going, he outweighs the dude chasing him down by 60 pounds. Like, that's where that's special. So
it's that power.
So his
speed.
rushing ability needs to look like Cam Newton's, which is I can run right the hell over the linebacker or defensive lineman trying to get in my way, or Josh Allen, same thing. But it doesn't give you that sort of angle-breaking speed that a guy that runs 4.3 flat does. I think that is like a significant difference.
Bryce Young, nothing to evaluate.
Not nothing to evaluate. I mean, just not much.
Not much.
Yeah. He took what was there, which was not much.
Hit his second read on his first pass. Love overreacting to the first pass.
Yeah, Adam Thielen.
Second read on his first pass looked pretty good, and then just did not convert on a couple third downs where they're based off where he was throwing it. Wasn't really much there. Didn't give his receiver an opportunity on one that he overthrew, but just not. He didn't have the egregious mistake that Stroud and Richardson had.
Right. One of them looked like it was Chenault's fault. Like I think Bryce Young put it in the right spot, and Chenault ran the route too deep and or into contact and wasn't able to break back to the sideline into where the ball was.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens with Laviska.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, not a nothing to evaluate, but definitely not much.
Oh, we're going right to O'Connell in the gold jacket.
We probably got to cover Levis, right? Let's sort of do it vaguely in draft order.
Okay, Will Levis. He's not going to have a great grade. I mean, he already doesn't have a great grade. Couple turnover-worthy plays. He had really the end of the game, I think, summed it up. He had an opportunity, for whatever it's worth, for a game-winning drive against the Bears.
Game-winning drive.
And on one play, he misses a wide-open pass over the middle, and the next play, he airmails it for an interception.
Yeah. So
it was not a good,
pretty rough from Levis
finish for Levis.
I will say though, Levis is quite emblematic of. So the problem with preseason generally is every year this is the most obvious thing to come out of all the games is how catastrophic the depth is when it comes to offensive linemen in the NFL. We know this generally when we keep talking during the season about, as soon as you have to go into the backups, you've got some problems. Like almost every team, nobody has any depth. It could not become clearer than when you get to preseason, and as soon as the second team offensive line comes in, it's just a shit show on offense. Like quarterbacks can't get anything done. Nobody can get open. It's constant pressure. And when you look at some of the pressure numbers across the NFL, like if a guy is running with the second string, not only is that its own problem, but now he's got to deal with that offensive line that simply isn't viable in the NFL. And I think you get real problems when it comes to trying to evaluate any kind of quarterback play because they don't have a working platform to function from. If you really want to learn something from a quarterback in preseason, he has to be running with the first string offensive line because otherwise it's too bad that you can't get anything from him. It's not that so Will Levis was under pressure 42% of the time, right? Which is that kind of borderline problematic number of this is too much. But the problem is that even on the plays where you're not under pressure, you're expecting the pressure because it's so prevalent at this point. And Levis was far from the most egregious quarterback, in terms of pressure percentage this week. There were a ton of guys who were over 50%, which is absolutely like, this does not function. Forget it. Don't get anything out of this quarterback. But I think that's a real issue in terms of trying to evaluate any quarterback. If he's running with the second or third string, forget about it.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. That's we're going to have to lament. The second half is bad offensive line. The second half of preseason game, bad offensive line, and the communication. You mentioned Laviska Shenault.
Right.
The difficulty. I'm always amazed at football sometimes how precise quarterbacks and receivers have to be in depth of route and timing, and it takes a lot of practice. Like when Peyton used to throw those on-time comeback routes to Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, and everything, it was always just fascinating to me, just very impressive to me that they could do that. And now you have receivers, we're at practice all the time. You see the backup legit get, here's your 5 reps for the day. Here's your 9 reps. And having that level of consistency. So my point is bad offensive line play plus the ability for quarterbacks and receivers to not be on the same page. Those are escalated quite a bit, particularly in the second half of preseason games.
It's really problematic because there's so many snaps where I don't think you can get anything useful from it. So let's let's spin this on towards Trey Lance for a minute, because I think Trey Lance is one of the few guys who you can actually take something from